This is an ABC News special report.
Good afternoon. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. We're coming on the air with breaking news in the murders of those 4 University of Idaho college students. Officials in Moscow, Idaho right now holding a press conference announcing an arrest in the case. Let's listen.
Last night, in conjunction with the Pennsylvania State Police, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murders of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee. I want to personally thank these agencies for their assistance in this case. Kohlberger resides in Pullman, Washington, and is a graduate student at Washington State University. We will provide as much information as we can about the extradition to Idaho and the criminal process. However, due to Idaho state law, we are limited in what information we can release today until Kohlberger has his initial appearance in Idaho court. I want to express my appreciation to our local community, the people of Idaho, and those throughout our nation who provided information to help us investigate these murders has been very impressive. We've received over 19,000 tips, and we've conducted over 300 interviews. To recap this case, on the evening of November 12th, Kaylee and Madison arrived home at about 1:56 a.m. after visiting a local bar and street food vendor. Ethan and Zana were at the Sigma Chi house before arriving home around 1:45 a.m. The 2 surviving roommates had also been in the community but returned around 1 a.m. On the morning of November 13th, a 911 call was made at 11:58 a.m. reporting an unconscious person at the residence. The call came from inside the home from one of the surviving roommates' cell phones. Moscow police responded and found 2 victims on the 2nd floor and 2 victims on the 3rd floor. On November 17th, autopsies were conducted and the Latah County coroner confirmed the identity of the 4 victims. The cause and manner of death was homicide by stabbing. Some had defensive wounds, and each had been stabbed multiple times. These murders have shaken our community, and no arrest will ever bring back these young students. However, we do believe justice will be found through the criminal process. This was a very complex and extensive case. We had developed a clear picture over time, and we stand assured that the work is not done, but be assured the work is not done. This has just started. Since November, we have remained laser focused on pursuing every lead in our pursuit of justice for the victims and their families. I recognize the frustration with the lack of information that's been released. However, providing any details in this criminal investigation might have tainted the upcoming criminal prosecution or alerted the suspect of our progress. We will continue to provide as much information as we can as the process moves forward. Today, I want to specifically thank our dedicated Moscow Police Department detectives, patrol officers, the Idaho State detectives, the Idaho State troopers, and their crime lab technicians and scientists, and the Federal Bureau of Investigation for the resources and personnel to conduct this massive investigation. It was the dedication of them and the persistence and the numerous hours that led to an arrest. Fortunately, these highly skilled people worked together as a cohesive team to solve this case. I also want to thank our community and the nation. Over the past 6 weeks, I've been continually reminded of how much our community cares. Locally, public support has been exceptional with kind words, food for investigators, and letters of support. You will never know how much your words of encouragement help us through these trying times. I appreciate each of you and each of your kindness. Agencies and individuals from across the nation have reached out to us to express their support to this department. I'm reminded how our Moscow community, our families, and the nation has been impacted by this daily. Finally, I do want to thank our media partners for the help. You kept this in the news. You helped us with tips. You kept things going, and we truly appreciate that. And you are the product of those 19,000 tips that we received, which is an impressive number. I would like to invite Bill Thompson, the county prosecutor, up at this time.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Bill Thompson. I'm the Latah County prosecutor. And it's sad to be here, but happy to be here at the same time. As Chief Fry indicated, a criminal complaint was filed yesterday here in Latah County, charging the defendant, Mr. Kohlberger, with 4 counts of first-degree murder, in addition to felony burglary, which involves entering the residence with the intent to commit the crime of murder. Mr. Kohlberger, and let me preface, there is a pending case now in court, and I and my office and the investigators have to live with the restrictions that our Supreme Court places on pretrial publicity. That said, I promise you we will share with you through the court process or otherwise whatever we are allowed to. I just appreciate your patience on that. The factual basis for the charges are summarized in what's called a probable cause affidavit that is on file with the court. According to the rules of the Idaho Supreme Court, that is sealed until Mr. Kohlberger is physically back in Latah County and has been served with the Idaho arrest warrant. At that time, we expect that that affidavit will be available to you so you can share the true facts with all of your readers and your watchers and your listeners and all of the people who are interested and really need to know what's going on. So please have patience with us on that. We hope to get that to you as soon as we can. As far as Mr. Kohlberger, I can share with you that he is a graduate student at Washington State University and has an apartment residence over at Pullman. He has had an initial appearance in front of a judge in Pennsylvania. He is being held without bond, and the warrant from our magistrate judge here also provides for no bond. We understand that he's scheduled to be back in court in Pennsylvania next Tuesday afternoon, and that a public defender has been appointed for him there. The process at this point is, since he was arrested in another state, he has the opportunity to either waive extradition and return voluntarily to the state of Idaho, or if he prefers not to waive extradition, then we will initiate extradition proceedings through our governor's office. If we do that, it can take a while for him to get here. So again, I'm asking for your patience and understand that's just the way the system works. Once he gets here, he'll have an initial appearance with our magistrate. They'll deal with issues such as making sure competent counsel is representing him, and the case will be scheduled for further hearings. Your primary source of factual information is going to be the court record, because that's what the Supreme Court says we need to refer you to. So please pay attention to what's going on in court and have people there to watch and hear what's being said. As an attorney, myself and my office, we are limited on what we are allowed by the courts to say outside of the courtroom. So please just work with us. Finally, as the chief indicated, this is not the end of this investigation. In fact, this is a new beginning. Y'all now know the name of the person who has been charged with these offenses. Please get that information out there. Please ask the public, anyone who knows about this individual, to come forward, call the tip line, report anything you know about him to help the investigators and eventually our office and the court system understand fully everything there is to know about not only the individual, but what happened and why. Next, I'll introduce Colonel Ked Wells from the Idaho State Police. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Kedrick Wills. I serve as the director of the Idaho State Police and certainly want to express our appreciation for your attendance here today. These tragic murders took 4 young, vibrant lives from our community. Nothing we do can bring them back. The only thing that we can do in law enforcement to honor their memories that we know of is to bring this to a successful conclusion. This has been a very difficult time for the families, the university, the community, and the state of Idaho. However, it is also proven that communities come together in tough times. Certainly appreciate the support of the local community and our national audience that has been following us as our investigators have worked through this case. I'm thankful also to you, the media partners, who have helped keep this case in the forefront that generates the tips and we hope will continue to generate information that will help us to a conclusion of this proceeding. I'd like to express our appreciation on behalf of the Idaho State Police to Chief Fry, his leadership, and the entire Moscow Police Department for the way that they handled this from the very beginning. He directed the right people to the right positions that led us to this conclusion today. I've had the utmost confidence in this investigation and in Chief Fry, as well as in Mr. Bill Thompson and the Latah County Prosecutor's Office, who've been a great partner throughout this. Nothing has deterred the commitment of the investigators who've worked on this case, regardless of the organization they represent. It's been very trying and very difficult, as you know, that it has been on those investigators as they do the tedious work that they're so good at doing. The partnerships is what's led here as well. The partnerships between Moscow Police Department, I'd like to express our appreciation with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, specifically the special agent in charge out of the Salt Lake City Division, Dennis Rice, and also the work that happened in the last 24 hours in Pennsylvania with the arrest with the Pennsylvania State Police and Colonel Evanchik with the Pennsylvania State Police. We appreciate what they've done across the nation to help us as well. As Bill shared, this investigation is far from over. In fact, I appreciate what he shared, that this is not an ending, but rather a new beginning. The difference now is, as he shared, that we are dictated what information we can share by the court process and by laws in our state of Idaho. And so we will share, as he shared, Mr. Thompson is absolutely committed to share everything he can share through the court process. We've got to make sure that we don't get in front of that process. And we really deeply appreciate everybody's support here. The relationships that were forged here and the partnerships that were forged have led to this. And based on that is why we're here today. And we continue to believe that the best way we can honor these 4 lives that have been taken is to make sure that we have a successful outcome here. One of the partnerships that's been forged throughout this is a partnership with the University of Idaho. And on that, I'd like to introduce the president of the University of Idaho, Mr. Scott Green.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Scott Green, President of University of Idaho. Today's news and arrest is a welcome one. It's relief to our university, our community, and our extended Vandal family. The outpouring of support over the past 6 weeks helped sustain us during the most trying time. It provided the strength that helped us navigate the international scrutiny visited on our students and employees. We are truly thankful for the compassion and acts of kindness shown to our community. Kindness is contagious, and it provided the light that reclaimed ground lost to evil and darkness. We first want to acknowledge and thank Governor Little for the early promise of financial support that enabled the university to secure our campus and focus on helping our students and our employees in the wake of the crimes. We also appreciate the Idaho State Police and the highly visible security presence that brought comfort and calm to a community shocked and confused by the senseless crimes. We never lost faith that this case would be solved and are grateful for the hard work of the Moscow Police Department and their law enforcement partners. Vast and committed FBI resources brought important expertise to this complex case. Across the board, dedicated, highly competent personnel worked this case to arrest. This crime has nevertheless left a mark on our university, our community, and our state. While we cannot bring back Maddie, Kaylee, Zaina, and Ethan, we can thoughtfully and purposefully carry their legacy forward in the work that we do. Our students come first, and that was proven each and every day of this investigation. We are committed to safely delivering the college town atmosphere, campus experience, and high-touch quality education for which the University of Idaho is known. With time, we will heal. We will move forward together, and we will remain Vandal strong. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Chief Fry.
So now we will open the floor to questions. However, I want to remind everyone, as Prosecutor Bill Thompson explained, any factual information regarding the arrest of Kohlberger is currently sealed per Idaho law and will not be released until he has appeared in an Idaho court. Please formulate your questions accordingly. I recognize there are a lot of questions, and I will try to answer as many of them as I can.
Is there an evergreen or argument reporter?
Lauren Patterson, Northwest Public Broadcasting, Spokane Public Radio. I realize the records are sealed. I guess I'm not too familiar with how it works, but can you tell us what tip, what lead, what piece of evidence really led you all the way from Idaho to the suspect in Pennsylvania?
As I've said in the past, that's part of our investigation, and we won't be releasing that this time. We will have those answers. We'll have them as soon as we can make those available to you.
Then a quick follow-up and a two-parter. Is our community safe, or is law enforcement still on the search for other suspects who might be involved in this attack?
What I can tell you is we have an individual in custody who committed these horrible crimes, and I do believe our community is safe, but we still need to be vigilant, right? We still have talked about this in the past. We always need to be aware of our surroundings and make sure that we're aware of what's going on.
Hi, Chief. How soon into the investigation did police and law enforcement begin to spot Mr. Kohlberger as a potential suspect? And a follow-up, how many tips, if you can say, were specifically related to Mr. Kohlberger?
To the tip part, honestly, I can't answer that question, so I'm not even going to speculate on that. On the other part, that's part of our investigation, and it will come out. I'd like the mic to please come right over here.
Thank you. Dana Griffin with NBC News. Can you confirm that Kohlberger asked whether or not anyone else had been arrested when he was in custody?
I cannot confirm that, or I'm not sure of that information, but that would still be a part of our investigation.
Did CODIS initially return any hits on this guy?
That's still part of our investigation. That will come out. If we could get somebody over here, please.
And then one final question. Is there any message to the online sleuths who slandered and harassed people who they believed were responsible?
There was a lot of speculation going on, and we've always said from the very beginning that we're the official message that comes out, and to pay attention to what we're putting out there to the press.
I'm Nancy Liu with News Nation, and we were over at the house this morning, and you told us that the remediation would begin today. It was suddenly stopped. Can you tell us why?
Yes. The house cleanup has been halted, and that came by a legal request from the court.
Christina Corbin, Fox News. Chief, have you identified a motive?
That is part of the investigation, and that will come out as we continue the investigation. But what we still ask is for people to continually send us things in the tip line. We are still looking for more information. We're still trying to build that picture, just like we have stated all along. We're putting all the pieces together, and that will help.
Chief Veronica Miracle with CNN. Any indication that the suspect knew the victims?
That's part of the investigation as well. It won't be something that will come out at this point in time, but as we continue the investigation and as this case goes to trial, that will be brought forth.
Have you spoken to the families? Can you tell us what they've told you today?
Are you talking to the victims' families? Yeah, we have reached out to the victims' family as we always do. We've done that daily, and we've continued to have contact with them.
You're listening to a press conference in Moscow, Idaho, as officials are giving an update in the arrest made in the murders of those 4 University of Idaho college students. Officials announcing that 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger was taken into custody this morning in a Pennsylvania town in the Pocono Mountains. They say that he is now being charged or is facing charges, 4 counts of first-degree murder and felony burglary. There he is there, and is currently being held in Pennsylvania without bond. Now, the extradition process is underway. He had a court hearing earlier today, and a judge ordered the extradition, but we're told that process could take time. He has another court date that will happen next week before he actually goes back to Washington. And the interesting thing here is, while we're still getting more information about his background and any potential connection that he had to the victims here, officials do say that he was a student studying criminology, a PhD candidate at Washington State University in Pullman, his apartment just over the state border, about 15 minutes away from the crime scene. So again, all of this information, breaking news today. Much relief to the people in that small Idaho town who've been essentially living in fear for weeks. Let's go right to ABC's Kana Whitworth, who's been on this story pretty much since this began. And Kana, what were some of the things that stood out to you about what we learned today? And also, I know you've been talking to the families, getting their reaction.
Well, one thing that really stands out, Whit, is that we will not get that affidavit unsealed until he appears in court here in Idaho. And as you heard the Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson say, that could take some time, because if Kohberger does not come back here on his own merit, the governor of Idaho will have to get involved. They will have to extradite him here to Idaho to face charges. At that point, once he's in court, they will unseal that affidavit, which I do think will hold a lot of answers. Right now, we still don't know who or what was the target of this attack. Keep in mind, authorities have maintained this entire time this was an isolated and targeted attack. We also still don't know if he was connected to that white Hyundai Elantra that everyone was looking for. So they still say they have a lot of details that haven't been unsealed just yet. And again, we also don't know if there was other people arrested. Remember, Whit, authorities said that they're looking for all the occupants, plural, of that white Hyundai Elantra. Now, I did speak with a family of Kaylee Gonzalez. We've been talking with Steve throughout this entire ordeal, and he says at this point, the family is not familiar with this man, but he says that they are looking into it. They want to know if he is connected at all. You have to keep in mind that Washington State University is less than 10 miles away from Moscow. He also said today that they are happy, relieved, and thankful. And this news comes on a day when they are holding a joint celebration of life for both Kaylee and her lifelong best friend, Madison Mogan.
Yeah, it's just been so painful for that community. And I know that families, people were going home for the holidays and they were dealing with all of this. And to the point that you made earlier, Police Chief James Fry was actually asked directly if there were any other suspects in the case. And he didn't give a direct answer, but just said that I believe our community is safe, but we still need to be vigilant. So something to keep an eye on as the case unfolds. Kana, thank you so much. I do want to go to ABC's Matt Rivers, who's joining us now from Pennsylvania, this town in the Poconos Mountains where the suspect was taken into custody. Matt, what more are you learning about how this played out overnight?
Yeah, this was a pretty shocking turn of events here in Northeast Pennsylvania. We're a long way, obviously, from Idaho, and yet it was in the overnight hours just behind me in that gated community. It's a private community, so we're not actually allowed in to see the house. But the parents of Brian Kohberger, that's apparently where this joint group, this SWAT team, consisting of members of the FBI, the Idaho and Pennsylvania State Police, as well as the Moscow, Idaho local police, they were able to make entry to the house where Kohberger was staying, and they were able to arrest the 28-year-old. They transferred him shortly thereafter to the Monroe County Correctional Facility, and that is where he is right now awaiting extradition, which you heard the chief talk about in that press conference, that process going to play out right here in Pennsylvania. As for who this gentleman is, there's a lot of people that have been driving back and forth behind us all day long. We've been reaching out to people saying, hey, do you know who this person is? We haven't found anyone, at least at this point, who knows who this person is, but he does have roots in this area. He graduated in 2022, in June, actually, from DeSales University. That's about an hour away from here. And we know, even though he's at Washington State University, he's got roots here. So we're learning much more about who this person is, but still a much clearer picture needed about who Brian Kohberger is.
Matt Rivers, thank you. Let's bring in our senior investigative reporter, Aaron Katursky, who's been digging into the background of 28-year-old Brian Kohberger. And Aaron, we know that he had a court appearance. Tell us more about this extradition process and where things go from here.
He did have a court appearance earlier this morning. Whit Brian Kohberger will next return to a Pennsylvania court Tuesday afternoon to begin the process of extraditing him to Idaho, where he faces those 4 counts of felony murder. Now, law enforcement sources told ABC News police in Idaho identified Kohberger as a suspect, at least in part using DNA technology, and they tracked him to Pennsylvania through his vehicle. We're told the FBI had been watching the house for several days before a specialized team of state troopers and federal agents moved in at about 2 o'clock this morning to make the arrest. Whit?
All right, Aaron Katersky, our thanks to you, and Matt Rivers and Kana Whitworth, who've been following this story. Just want to leave you with what James Fry, the police chief, said. He reminded us that these murders have shaken our community and no arrest will ever bring back these 4 students. He says the work is not done. It's just getting started. Our coverage continues on ABC News Live and abcnews.com. You can also get breaking news alerts with the ABC News app. We'll be right back here with complete details on World News Tonight. For now, I'm Whit Johnson in New York. Have a great day.
This has been a special report from ABC News.